What's up, girls and boys? What's up, internet? I am Bianca, and for today, we are going to take a quick look on Nippon Ichi Software's roguelike dungeon crawler monster menu, the Scavenger's Cookbook's character status screen, a screen and a menu option that many would probably not pay that much attention to, but is worth a look nonetheless, as well as all the other information tied to it, like the skills, the equipment, and stat boosting through meals. Now, let's start by taking a look at the character status screen, which you can navigate to either at camp by selecting the characters option, the character you would want to view the information of, and then selecting status, or by pressing triangle or Y if you are playing this on the Nintendo Switch, and selecting the aforementioned option there. In the main character status screen, there are 3 tabs. The first one is status, which shows you your stats including levels, experience needed and gained, HP, calories, hydration, and happiness, as well as base stats, resistances, and equipment that we have discussed in the previous 2 videos. The second is the skill tab, which gives you an overview of all the skills your character has learned, whether that be from leveling up, ingesting food sources, or equipping items, including explanation regarding them. And lastly, the record tab, which gives you a quick look about your character and their various records, like the max levels they've reached, how many times they've died, vomited, gone mad, and their total damage, and the likes. One of the most useful information you can glean in the Records tab, however, is your character's favorite food or favorite food ingredient, which, when used, will give them a 5% stat boost for the next floor, not to mention reduce any loss of happiness by 50%. Speaking of food, although devouring enemies is still a very useful way of getting through floors when you are without healing and are low on health, calorie, and hydration, or you cannot find the stairs and you're low on all of your resources, you should still never neglect actually cooking food for your characters, as this is where the brunt of their growth lies. While there are a myriad of different kinds of dishes, recipes of which are commonly unlocked by finding them in these skull piles, there are a few ones that you can make right off the bat without the knowledge of these recipes and with the ingredients quite easy to find. It is also worth noting that it is much better to cook your food from scratch or memory of the recipes you've already unlocked rather than auto-cooking them, since you can add other ingredients in it to make the effects much better, like adding hay or branches, as you guys will see in the following examples. For instance, bug kebabs, although it shows that it decreases happiness quite a bit, are great at boosting HP and attack early on. Likewise, stir-fried bugs are also a good source of defense stat buffs early on in the game, which also comes with a paralysis and sleep success rate boost. But again, depending on what your character's preference on food are, the stat boosts may not be equally distributed, with some characters gaining more on these meals than others. There's also the steam toxins, which are a good addition to any Hungry Adventurer's menu that increases defense, poison resistance, damage mitigation, and gives the highest amount of hydration out of all the other items. Fried ice is also a useful meal in that it gives you the faster foraging skill, which, as the name implies, makes you collect items quicker and helps in ensuring you don't end up getting ambushed in the process. This dish also gives a defense boost and has the nice added bonus of slowing down your calorie loss. Now, these sample dishes, as you may have noticed, all deplete your happiness gauges by quite a margin, which is dangerous to set out off on. So why use them at all? Are these stat buffs worth it in exchange for that low happiness? The simple answer is yes. Yes indeed. Especially since the game doesn't really limit how many times you can feed your characters while at camp. The rule of thumb I have found in my later playthroughs is to feed your units with as much of these happiness-reducing yet stat-buffing meals as you can before feeding them the good stuff to restore their happiness, as this will allow you to make the most of boosting their stats early on in the game and will make later floors easier to manage. You also have the option to disassemble, an option found under crafting, a better quality item in favor of having more types of that item, like disassembling a meat chunk into a number of large meat, then disassembling that to make more small meat so that you can cook more dishes. If there is one food or food ingredient that you should never use as is, that would be the Rochi item, as it will lock your level with its forever young skill. You can, however, use that on monsters to debuff them and make battles easier, or use it for your bug kebabs without any repercussions of locking your levels. Also, something I forgot to mention in my previous videos is that there is a level cap in the game. Once you reach the first level cap of level 100, it is pointless to eat meals for the sake of stat boosting unless it is a character's favorite meal. There's also a hard cap of 9,999 in any given stat, as well as another level cap of level 255. So be mindful of that as to not waste time and materials. Another fun fact on food, or rather ingredients and materials. Did you know that you can actually feed them to monsters by throwing these items at them? This is especially useful when coupled with the prep food function that the game provides, as you can turn stones into elemental projectiles that can damage enemies if you so desire, or cause poison or other ailments and debuffs to the enemies. Prepping food also unlocks other ingredients, like muddy water being turned to pure water, or rice flies into bug rice. Another tip I can give you, even though this is not a tips video, is that you should prepare for traps for floors 31 and upwards when you can get fish from the small ponds scattered in that particular Orgonne. You can use these traps to catch fish 2 to 3 times before they get destroyed. The time it takes to catch fish is pretty quick, and the amount you get for them is a lot, with even a good enough chance to catch rarer fishes. Really useful stuff. Moving on from cooking and food, let's tackle another thing related to the character status screen: the skills. Now, I've mentioned a few skills in this video and in the previous video, so you may be wondering, how do you obtain these skills? There are 2 types of skills in Monster Menu, the Scavenger's Cookbook. Passive skills, which are skills that are always enabled on your character, like cooking, marathon, and weight, and then the battle skills, which are skills you can use in battle, like your techniques. Passive skills are even further categorized into 2: permanent and temporary. Like I've mentioned, you can obtain skills in 3 ways: leveling up naturally, eating meals or ingredients/items that provide these skills, or via equipment. The first 2 are self-explanatory enough. You just level up your characters and you will eventually get them permanently, whether we are talking about permanent passives or battle skills. The second option is to just feed them whatever item you have that has the skills you want. This one, however, only provides skills for a temporary time, hence why they are called temporary skills. These skills, whether they are permanent or temporary passives, can be leveled up either by repeated use or by eating the same item that provided the temporary passives or the permanent passives in the first place. It is something to note, however, that for battle skills, you need not only level up but repeatedly use their base skills as well in order to acquire the skill of a higher tier. For instance, a mage starts off with the basic ether, fire, wind, and water orbs, but constant use of this will unlock the higher tiered arrows and storms versions. Now, when it comes to equipment, the skills present and the number of these skills per equipment is dependent on the equipment rarity. Legendary ones can have up to to 15 if you are playing on Nightmare mode, give or take, while common ones can just have only one. Not all the skills found in an equipment is unlocked the moment you picked it up and equipped it, however. Nope, that's not how it works in this game. You would actually need to manually unlock these skills by crafting enhancer kits, the base recipe of which is already unlocked at the get-go, while the higher level ones you would need to unlock yourself. To use enhancer kits after crafting, you would need to pick the From Materials crafting option, select the equipment you want to unlock the skills of, and add in the enhancer kit itself before choosing the item itself at the item info box below the ingredients and hitting the confirm button on your console. Depending on what level the enhancer kit used is, it will unlock a specific number of skills, with level 1 unlocking just one of it. Do note, however, that legendary rarity items should not always be your go-to when equipping. You have to balance the perks and the stats that these equipment gives before you use your enhancer kits on them. Why? Because sometimes lower rarity items have higher stats but lesser perks or skills, so you have to think about what you and your characters need before using up your enhancer kits or before being attached to an item just because of its rarity. If there is a need for you to farm equipment, there is actually 2 ways to do it that I personally know of, but it is better done in post-game as stats scale depending on the area you are in, and this method may bring down some enemies on you that you may not be prepared to face off just yet. But if you are the type to dare and challenge and are up to the grind, because this is RNG based and it will take a while before you can actually find a worthwhile item, then this is something you may want to try. The first option is to simply head on over to the highest floor you have unlocked and make for the chest there, ignoring all the enemies before letting them kill you off. This will ensure, if you are in the lower difficulties, that you obtain all the gear you've gotten off them while being brought back to the lowest floor of that particular Orgonne. This option forces you to restart the level again and again until you get the equipment that best suits your current party build. It's tedious, but it will allow you to have lots of equipment you can either equip or use for disassembling and crafting enhancer kits. Another tactic you can employ to farming equipment, but will require you to actually fight and defeat your foes, is using steamed eggs with mimic transformation in its perk/skills list. What this skill does is transform enemies fed by it into mimics that you will then have to fight, and upon defeating, turns into chests that you can open for loot. Often they provide useful equipment, and when you have the Collect More's boon equipped, will increase the number of items you can obtain per chest. So not only will you get a chance for a good equipment with good perks, but you will also manage to, level up your party and grind for experience while you're at it. But again, this secondary option would require you to actually find the eggs, the banana leaves, and cook them, and will require you to put the time to fight and feed the enemies and hope they transform into a mimic and not an enemy that you can actually defeat just yet, which may be troublesome if it takes you too long to defeat and find these foes, since you might end up summoning the giant bee that acts as the Reaper in this game that appears whenever you take too long to get to the next floor. In all honesty, there is no easy way to go about collecting equipment and materials in this game, and all avenues point to you putting in time or effort or both. Anyways, that's it for today's video. I know this is a lot shorter than my previous ones on Monster Menu, the Scavenger's Cookbook, but I figured this is informative enough despite its length, as some people may not know about these things. And well, I sincerely do hope that it is helpful enough to you guys. As always, questions, sharing tips, and other information is always welcome, just so long as everyone stays respectful and kind. But that's all the time we have for today. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all when the next video drops, whenever that may be. Hopefully soon. But until then, you guys know the drill. Dream on, fly on. Bye bye for now. Keep safe, everyone. Thanks for watching.